Hi everyone and welcome to this set of lectures on environmental evaluation. In this first video, we will present some concepts related to environmental evaluation. More specifically, by the end of this video, you will know what environmental evaluation is, why you should conduct an environmental evaluation, and some of the main challenges and limitations of this economic tool. I won't talk about the approaches used to conduct an environmental evaluation here. There will be other videos in which I will go over these approaches and teach you how to conduct an environmental evaluation. So the first question is, what is environmental evaluation? Environmental evaluation is an economic tool used by economists to estimate the monetary value of the ecosystem services provided by nature to us. And here we have to make a parenthesis because we need to fully understand what we are measuring. We have two important concepts. First, ecosystem services, and second, the idea that we only account for the goods and services provided by nature and that impact our welfare. This is a very common figure, although a bit outdated, but it is good, in my opinion, to illustrate both concepts. So first, as you can see, ecosystem services are the connection between ecosystems, biodiversity, and human well-being. They are generated by the physical structures of ecosystems, and what we are valuing here is how humans use and benefit from these services. This is important to understand because we are not measuring the physical structures or the functions of the ecosystems themselves, but rather their contribution to us or to our welfare. To make it easier to identify the ecosystem services, several organizations have created a classification system. Personally, I find it a bit confusing just because there is not only one known and accepted classification, but there are like many accepted classifications. So here we have like the two main classifications that I use during my work, but as I mentioned, there are others. In the United Nations website, and here there's like a link that you can download a spreadsheet with a crosswalk among six, I think, existing classifications, including these two, economics of ecosystems and biodiversity, and the system of environmental economic accounting. What is important here is that when conducting evaluation, you should be explicit about the classification system you are using so people don't get confused. And more importantly, you should not mix them. All these classification systems aggregate the ecosystem services into four main categories. The first one is provisioning services. These include tangible goods and services obtained from ecosystems such as food, water, timber, and medicinal resources. Then we have regulating services. These involve processes that help maintain environmental stability, such as climate regulation, flood control, water purification, and pollination. The third one is cultural services. These encompass non-material benefits such as recreation, scenic beauty, spiritual enrichment, and cultural heritage. And then we have like the supporting services. These are fundamental processes that sustain ecosystems like nutrient cycling, soil formation, and oxygen production. But as I have figured out, based on the figure I showed you, we do not value this service. This is because they serve as a foundational process that enable other ecosystem services to exist rather than being directly used or experienced by humans. In fact, they are being called now ecosystem functions to clarify that these functions are the underlying mechanisms that sustain ecosystems rather than benefits directly used by humans. Again, this distinction is important because ecosystem services focuses on the benefits to humans, whereas ecosystem functions emphasize the ecological process that operate independently of human use. And the idea of use is really important in valuation. When conducting an environmental valuation, we are interested in calculating a value that captures the full range of benefits people derive from the environment, both direct and indirect, now and in the future. And that is exactly what we do when when calculating the total economic value of a landscape, for example. The total economic value is divided into use and unused values. Use values are based on actual use, whether like direct or indirect. So we have like direct use value can be, for example, harvesting timber, fishing, recreation in parks. The indirect use value can be water filtration by wetlands, climate regulation by forests. Then we have like the option value, which is like the value of preserving the option to use a resource in the future. And then on the other hand, we have like non-use values, which are not linked to any current or future use. We have existence value, which is the value of knowing a species or ecosystem simply exists. Then we have like the bequest value, which is like the value of preserving nature for future generations. Okay, so now that you know the fundamentals of an economic valuation, the question is why conduct an environmental valuation? And here are some of the most important reasons, I think at least. The first one is raise awareness. The economic valuation exercise allows you to highlight the critical role of nature and ecosystem services, strengthening the case for conservation. And then we have support in decision making and also like providing essential information to guide choices, such as understanding the distribution of costs and benefits, who benefits from ecosystem services and who bears the cost if they are lost, clarifying the trade-offs between conservation and development. Environmental evaluation helps policymakers and stakeholders make informed choices by quantifying the benefits ecosystems provide in economic terms. This is especially important when balancing conservation efforts with development projects. And then we have that environmental evaluation can also be important for designing incentives and financial mechanisms like payment for ecosystem services, entrance fees, and other innovative tools that will help generate financial resource to conserve nature. Because as we know, there's like an important funding gap in nature conservation. Environmental evaluation is for sure a necessary tool, but it isn't without its challenges. One major limitation is the presence of data gaps. Reliable and comprehensive data on ecosystem services, especially in less studied regions of our complex ecological process, can be scarce. This makes it difficult to assign accurate monetary values and may lead to underestimating or overlooking critical services. Another challenge lies in ethical concerns. Assigning a monetary value to nature raises the question, should the intrinsic worth of ecosystems and biodiversity be reduced to a price tag? For many, the cultural, spiritual, or even like moral significance of nature cannot and should not be expressed in monetary terms. So that is something for you to think about that I won't discuss here. Then we have like the methodological complexity, which is also significant hurdle. There are many possible approaches to value an ecosystem services, and each will give you a different value. So it's really important to understand the assumptions and limitations of each approach, and we will go over these approaches in the next videos. The issue of equity and fairness cannot be overlooked. Environmental valuation could unintentionally marginalize communities that rely heavily on natural resources but lack the financial means to value them in traditional economic terms. This raises concerns about whose values are represented and prioritized. This is quite important, and that is why you should always start evaluation exercise by identifying the beneficiaries and those who bear the cost of a policy implementation that will change the provision of ecosystem services. Finally, there is the risk of misinterpretation or misuse of valuation results. Policymakers or stakeholders might focus on the monetary figures alone, ignoring other crucial aspects of ecosystems that don't translate easily into numbers, such as the role in cultural identity or long-term ecological resilience. Yet, despite all these challenges, environmental valuation remains essential, in my opinion. In a world driven by economics, attaching value to nature can be like a powerful way to influence policies, promote conservation, and ensure sustainable development. So while imperfect, I would say that it provides a bridge between ecological and economic systems, emphasizing that nature is not free. This brings us the last slide of this video. Let's quickly recap what we have covered. We learned that environmental valuation is an economic tool used to quantify the monetary value of ecosystem services, and that the two main reasons for conducting environmental valuation exercise are to create awareness and provide support for decision makers. While it's a powerful tool, it has important limitations which need to be explicitly addressed in any report or analysis. In the next videos, I will go over the approaches used, helping you understand how and when to use them. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been helpful. Bye.